In just a few weeks, we are set to be getting the brand new MacBook Air with the M4 chip and possibly dual monitor support with the lid open, which is a nice upgrade. However, the true upgrade would be with the next generation of MacBook Pro and MacBook Air, which will be launching starting from next year. So here are 5 major changes that they'll come with. Okay, so the first change, and probably the biggest one with the next-gen MacBooks, will be their thinness. According to Mark Gurman, Apple plans on making the new MacBook Pros specifically significantly thinner than the current generation, which would match up with Apple's latest plans of making each device they launch the thinnest one in their category. We first saw this with the M4 iPad Pro, which was by far the thinnest iPad ever released at just 5.1 millimeters. Then we had the Apple Watch Series 10, once again, the thinnest Apple Watch ever released. And this year, we're getting the iPhone 17 Air, also the thinnest iPhone ever released. And this next generation of MacBooks would follow the same approach by being the thinnest possible version of them. Now, taking a look at the MacBook Air, I don't believe this would be getting that much thinner, as it is already super thin at just 11.3 millimeters. But when you consider that the iPad Pro, which basically has the same chip, is half the thickness and also comes with cameras and tons of magnets inside, you could argue that Apple could still make the next generation MacBook Air much thinner with plenty of room for the built-in keyboard and trackpad still. In our concept, we made it about 10 to 20% thinner, so not a huge amount, but enough to make it visibly look thinner. And we've also flattened the frame to match up better with the iPhone's and the iPad's frame, both of which are flatter. Now, when we take a look at the MacBook Pro, that is where I think the bigger thickness reduction would happen. Not just because Mark Gurman specifically referred to the MacBook Pro here, but also because the MacBook Pros is where Apple really needs to reduce the thickness and the weight. With the previous 2016 generation of MacBook Pros, even though they were technically thicker than the current generation by 0.1 millimeters, they actually felt way thinner. That was simply because the edges were tapered, so when you grab the MacBook Pro, it felt super thin, whereas the current generation, which is flat, feels very bulky. Add this to the fact that the current generation is much heavier now by around 150 grams, and you get what is a pretty bulky laptop. So because of this, I was personally never a fan of how this current generation of MacBook Pros felt. Reason why, I even ended up fully ditching my M1 Max 14-inch and going with an M3 MacBook Air instead as my everyday laptop, which is just a joy to travel with. Now, in our concept, we've made the new MacBook Pro significantly thinner, almost half the thickness of the current generation, and kind of like a slightly thicker version of the current MacBook Air. Of course, this is just a concept. There are no leaks of the actual thickness yet, although if Apple were to try to make the MacBook Pros as thin as they could be, this is literally that, as the thickness of the HDMI port is almost as thick as the body of the MacBook Pro itself. And if Apple does achieve this, it would instantly make me want to go back to a MacBook Pro, as it wouldn't just be super portable once again, but it would also have one thing that a MacBook Air would not get for a while, and that is an OLED display. Yes, this is the second big change that this new generation of MacBook Pros is rumored to get. A switch from the current mini LED displays to full-on OLED. And I'm pretty sure that this would be the same Ultra Retina XDR OLED panel that Apple is already using in the M4 iPad Pro, only a bigger version of it. This means a peak brightness of 1600 nits, which would make the new MacBook Pros the brightest laptops on the market, at least as of today. And being OLED, it also means that the current mini LED blooming would no longer be visible. Now, I don't think it's that bad on the MacBook Pros, definitely not as bad as compared to the mini LED M1 and M2 iPad Pros, but compared to actual OLED, the blooming is still very obvious. Well, this will no longer be an issue with this new generation. Honestly, I'm crazy excited for this new display, as the M4 iPad Pro had literally the best display I've ever used on a portable device. As for the MacBook Air, this is still rumored to be using LCD until 2029. Yes. And if you're wondering how on earth would it take Apple so long, well, that's because they want to keep the cost of the MacBook Air quite low. And since the Air is Apple's most popular laptop, Apple would also need some good affordable OLED panels in huge supplies, which Samsung and LG, even when combined, apparently would not be able to fulfill. However, there is one display upgrade that the Air is still set to get, and that is a more efficient Oxide TFT LCD in 2027. That would apparently provide a sharper image and smoother scrolling. Now, the display itself is already plenty sharp and also smooth, I guess, for a 60Hz panel that is. So I'm wondering if this isn't just a translation error, and in fact, what we may be getting is a higher resolution display matching the MacBook Pros, and maybe even 120Hz promotion as well. And that will definitely make the MacBook Air's display more manageable until it gets OLED in 2029. And with these new displays, we'll be getting one more upgrade. That's also one of the biggest issues with this generation of MacBooks. Of course, I'm talking about the notch. Yes, the notch is finally said to be going away, and in its place, we will be getting a single punch hole camera, according to the latest leaks. This does mean that we won't be seeing Face ID, especially since the lid will need to be thicker, and the whole idea here is that these new MacBooks would be thinner than before, not thicker. But it does mean that the super annoying gigantic notch would finally be gone. And the reason why I said annoying is because I use a lot of third-party apps that do run fully in the menu bar up here. For example, iStat Menus is a fully menu bar app. Same for Owly, Magnet, and a bunch of others that I'm using. And honestly, because I'm using so many of these apps, on the current MacBooks, I cannot see them all because of the notch. So I literally have to use another third-party app like Barbie to be able to, use and see those apps, which is just crazy. I still cannot believe that Apple has not released a first-party solution for this issue. Instead, they've been relying on us to download third-party apps to fix their terrible UI design here. Well, this will be fixed, at least for the most part, by that new punch hole camera design. The leaks are only pointing towards the MacBook Pros getting this punch hole design, although I would expect the same for the MacBook Air 2 in order to keep the new design language consistent. In fact, the only other display difference between the two, aside from OLED and 120Hz promotion at first, would be the bezels, which I still expect to be thicker on the MacBook Air as opposed to the MacBook Pro. Although, both would likely still have thinner bezels compared to their current generation counterparts. And speaking of bezels and screens, if you love these wallpapers that you're seeing in our concepts, they are all from our app Wallpapers. This, for example, is Relentless Reflections by Michael, a beautiful Apple-inspired pack that makes any device look super premium. And if you use this pack on your smartphone, tablet, and desktop, the designs will pair so nicely. I would definitely love to see what your setups would look like with this pack. Feel free to tweet me at ZONEofTECH. And then we've also got Glitzy Glasses by Hanane, which has a similar premium vibe, but this one is a bit more nothing inspired with the pane glass effect behind them. And I think this looks super awesome as well. Check out both packs and more in our app Wallpapers, which you can download for free on iOS and Android. And we are dropping 2 new packs every single week. So here's the links below to check it out. Which brings me to the fourth big upgrade, which is cellular. Yes, according to the latest leaks, we'll be getting cellular support in the next-gen MacBooks. Apple is said to be introducing their custom-made 5G modem with the launch of the iPhone SE and the 11th gen iPad. And then starting from next year, they'll bring this to the MacBook Pro redesign as well. And then of course, in time, the MacBook Air will also get it once it gets redesigned. This is another huge upgrade that I'm extremely excited for. Yes, I know you can hotspot very easily from your phone, even more so if you've got an iPhone, as you can just instantly click from the control center and then connect to it, but that will drain the battery life of your iPhone much faster. And I've also experienced a number of issues in the past where hotspotting from my iPhone would simply not work at all. So really, having cellular built in would mean that you'll always be connected, as long as, you're not in the middle of nowhere. And of course, the last big upgrade of this new generation is going to be the new M6 chip. The M4 was a massive upgrade over the M3 with significantly improved CPU and GPU performance, as well as major improvements in real day-to-day usage in pro apps. The M5 is expected to be a more minor upgrade with some slight performance and power efficiency improvements, whereas the M6 would be the next big upgrade, as it would be switching to a new 2nm manufacturing process from the current 3nm. And it would apparently also introduce a new wafer-level chip module, which would allow for an even tighter integration between the CPU, the GPU, and the neural engine. So we should see some more significant performance and power efficiency improvements compared to the M5. All in all, this new generation of MacBook Pro looks like a massive upgrade, with the M6 chip, much thinner design, a lighter body, OLED, and of course the removal of the notch. The MacBook Air does look like a smaller upgrade until we get that redesign, which I think would only happen in 2027, once we also get that Oxide TFT LCD upgrade. And it's also worth remembering that the current MacBook Air design launched a year after the MacBook Pro. in 2022 compared to 2021. So 2027 would actually make a lot of sense. But yeah, if you want to continue this conversation, feel free to join our free Discord, links down below. And also, if you want to check out some cool wallpaper designs, you can find all of them in our app Wallpapers, which you can also download for free on iOS and Android. I'm Daniel, so ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.